Okay, the number one bed, the snow peas are still, the new growth on them is looking great. The older growth is looking terrible still. The broccoli, where I cut the old head off that was mildewed here, I've got new side heads coming in. They won't get very big, but they will be something. I've still got more dead and dying growth as far as the old leaves go that were being so viciously attacked by insects. The insect problem does not seem to be as bad. I haven't noticed near as many gnats. There were a lot around the squash the other day, but I think landing on the squash leaves that have been sprayed and trying to feed off them is impacting their numbers. Got the broccoli. I mean, this head is doing pretty good. That one back there is doing good. That was one of the ones I had to cut off. This one was just forming. So was this one. This one was one of the ones I had to cut off. It was actually fairly big, but it was developing mold. So I've got side heads coming in on it. I had to cut this one off. I've got side heads. This one I didn't cut off, but it looks like it has a little bit of color change in it. Might be trying to brown, so I might wind up having to cut it off yet. This one's looking pretty good. So that's a few inches in diameter, and there's still gnats flying around, so I'm probably going to try to spray some neem oil on the remaining stuff. The cauliflower is still hanging in there. I'm starting to get to the point I'm not expecting much. I think it was just too damaged by the insects and got too late of a start. Red cabbage still hanging in there. Still got larvae all over it, but I'm hoping they're all dead from the spray. It doesn't seem to be having too terribly adverse of an effect on the actual foliage. So we'll see. I need to kind of just spray all the cabbage down with some clean water and try to rinse all that larva off and see if it comes back. Squash hanging in there. I've still got plenty of early forming and blooms. Problem is I don't have any male flowers ready to fertilize anything with, so I'm afraid I'm going to start losing some of this stuff before I can get around to fertilizing it. The cabbage that I left here is looking kind of okay and kind of bad at the same time. There are gnats flying around it. I'm probably going to leave it there, hope they keep trying to feed off of it and that the poison will kill them. The turnips that I left are dead or dying for the most part, so I don't hold out any hope for the other ones doing anything. So, but the squash is still doing really good. Since I trimmed some of it back, I've got more dead and dying leaves, but at the same time I've still got that one big acorn over there that was the first one I hand fertilized, and like I said, same thing, a lot of blooms. I'm just not sure if they're going to be fertilized, and I'm not getting any male flowers to manually fertilize them. And you can see where that one is barely hanging in back there. It's self-pruning, and that one up top is probably going to self-prune as well because of just not getting any fertilization, because I'm not getting male flowers to fertilize with. I had that one big beautiful bloom here that you can see is dying. So this probably didn't get fertilized. This one is opening, but I don't have any males to fertilize with. I had several of them trying to form down here, and I've still got the gnat problem. Even that other spray didn't really kill them back too well. So I have no idea what I'm going to do about the gnat problem. The cucumbers, the turn in cold weather and it being cooler for several nights in a row has had a definite impact. I'm getting much more dead leaves. The same with the squash. I'm getting some browning leaves. I think it's because of the cold weather. I've got new growth down here, lower down on the gravel, that looks really good, but some of the older growth just isn't looking as good. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with the cucumbers. Still getting some blooms on them, as you can see there. That's a cucumber bloom. So I'm not really certain. It's kind of hit and miss. Cucumber bloom, more blooms coming in, more blooms coming in, cucumbers blooming down here. But the same issue. I mean, the gnats were kind of fertilizing, but it's still a issue of having to get rid of the gnats. Whatever this lettuce was, which I'm starting to believe it's not an iceberg, is still trying. So is this one. I think I got some seeds mixed up there. Probably going to wind up pulling that and just replanting this whole bed with black-seeded Simpson or something along those lines. These two eggplants still coming along. The tomatoes have picked up just a little bit since they started getting natural sunlight, since I trimmed back the eggplant so much. So I've got my fingers crossed on the tomatoes doing something. As long as I can keep them warm enough, they should start producing. And I still have, like, this sucker that's coming up is really pretty. So I'm hoping that I can pull it, get it rooted, and have a fresh one coming in. There's another sucker right here that's lower down. I'm probably going to do the same thing. Once it gets big enough, I'll pull it, root it, see if I can get some new plants coming. If I can do that, these old spindly ones that were shadowed for so long by the eggplant that aren't doing very well, I will replace. I'll just pull them up, pop the suckers down, get them rooted, and restart. But anyway, that's the state of the bed this week. Because I'm getting a lot of browning on the squash leaves, and I don't really understand what's going on. Some of the water flow is a little bit high on a couple of the beds. I need to get those adjusted back. And actually, it's not that terrible. I'm going to have to see what's going on with my the system and see what I can correct. But anyway, whatever got to everything so bad is really disappointing. I'm sure it was the gnats, and even with the actual poison spray I sprayed, you would think the gnats would be dying off. I hope that they do. I hope that it killed the larvae so I don't have any new gnats coming along, which by now some of these larvae should have turned into that pupa state that looks like an aphid, like these here on the back of this leaf. So I'm hoping that maybe that poison killed the pupa and the larva and will stop any more adults from coming in. I'm hoping some of the adults die off too. I don't know what these poor turnips are going to do here. And I'm babbling, so I'm going to stop.